Thank you so much. It's an honor to be asked to give a talk here with all you wonderful people and organizations that help Alexander. I would appreciate it if you can partake in what some things I face as speech. Speech is affected by Parkinson. So I ask you, if my voice goes down, just raise your hand and I'll pick it back up. If you want to throw something at me, that's fine. You get extra points. I get double points if I catch what you throw. Imagine you're going to the doctor. You're feeling sick. You might have the flu or that. He gives you medicine. You go home and you get better. However, if he tells you you got Parkinson's disease, some form of dementia, you don't see that light at the end of the tunnel like you do if he gives you the medicine. And you know you're going to get better. But with dementia and Parkinson, it's a lifetime condition you're going to have to the day you die. And what the best thing to do is, when you go out, I did forget one thing. If you be told you got to go and give you medicine, you will see the light in the tunnel. But if you get told you got dementia and Parkinson, you don't see that light. You see the tunnel, but no light. And you won't see it until it's finally completely cured or the day you leave Earth. And that's one reason that my title is to slow Lewie and slow Parky up, to stay ahead of them. Most of it we do, because one of the things that we can do is keep active. But Parkinson is more physical. I do yoga, I do squash, I do boxing, I do cross training and that. And particularly with the dementia, I do mental things, stimulate my mind. I do puzzles, quizzes, watch TV, try to beat the beast on the chase. And sometimes he does lose. Sometimes he whops me. So all these little things is just a few things I got to do to keep ahead. And sometimes they cross paths because it's so complex, the difference between Parkinson and dementia. I just got through an association I belong to in the States that deals with Lewy body dementia. And the thing is said, with Lewy body dementia, has this little hideous thing. It blends into like you got Parkinson, or it blends into you like you got dementia, which has caused some of your doctors, neurologists, to misdiagnose you. That was quite an interesting article I got. I just got it this morning. I found that really interesting because there was a case earlier where a doctor actually did that. He told the guy he had Parkinson, but then ended up he had Lewy body dementia. Now, the next thing is with dementia. This is the start of our life, my life and others, living with dementia and whatever, anything else. It is a thing where a person is noted, they could feel alienated, they could feel like they belong or don't belong to anybody, they're here on their own. I was asked to participate in a workshop that dealt with belonging, and it's very interesting and really touching to see how these people depend belonging to other people. First sample I had, I went to the niche in Netherlands, went to a seminar, a lady collapsed. And this is my first exposure to Parkinson or anything like that. And I was just stunned to see all these people come and help this lady who collapsed. And you have people who had advanced stage of Parkinson, is known as a shuffle. You see people like that, that's Parkinson. That's called shuffling. All come to help or support that lady. It made me feel like I belonged somewhere. And that meant a lot to me. And all through my passage with this, living with dementia and Parkinson, has meant a lot to me because I learned a lot. If you want to go to the Brain Trust, you go to the front line. We have biscuits and tea and coffee, but we also talk it gives us an excuse to talk about the medicine we take, the doctors we visit, exercise we did, what's available to us, and of course the associations. Because I remember one guy came up and he acted like, he acted like he was like a first year stay for him at school. Because he was told he had dementia, but nobody told him anything else. Then he found out what he can do. So we supported him, we helped him, and he felt like he belonged. Now, the other thing is, I'm concerned about the gaps and how these people can get through, because if they don't get supported, they can eventually end up being depressed and that. Or I won't go further than that. Also, I had a guy came up to me, his friend was told he got dementia. I don't care. I just go back home, have a beer, watch TV, stuff it. That's my life. And we had a little talk about this, how he can react. And I said, well, I hope that your friend was reacting and not responding. And hopefully when he responds, you're there to be with him and support him, understand what he needs. I've seen that happen with a lady. She denied she had dementia. But once, because she was in the group, one of the 5-week course that Alexander Dementia Association has, at the end, she was looking for information so she can help prevent her going any further with dementia. She accepted it after she's seen all of us with dementia. Sorry if I walk back and forth, it keeps my legs loose. The plan, my wife and myself, we had a plan. And before we started, I explained to her why I was composed when I was told I got Parkinson. And even more composed when I was told I got dementia. It's when, 40 years ago, I worked with a friend of mine, working with children who are physically and or mentally challenged in a state institute. And they taught me a lot in their own way. Some of these kids will never leave institute. Some will. But they taught me one thing I've always kept, and this helped me keep my composure. It is, forget what you don't have. But take what you know you have and enjoy it. Take it to the extreme. Enjoy life. And I've always kept that, and that's why I explained to you, I can walk out being told that my life's not the same and keep my composure. So what we did, we had a family meeting and explained to the kids that I got Parkinson and what it does, my balance. Of course, if you haven't noticed, this is my tremor. This is what you call a tremor. Sometimes it can act up and be mean to you. Sometimes you can cause laughs with it. And explain to that what I could go into is talk about speech. And that was very important because we're having a little communication issue. And because we realized that Parkinson was affecting my speech, we addressed it. And now we're a lot better off. We still have our moments, but every family does. And then we also, you imagine a year later when I was told I got dementia. And in dementia, of course, people will you go walkabouts, you forget. So they say, yes, we know that might be the day, it could be tomorrow, that I forget who you are. But I also explained to them there's other issues. For example, I would be sitting down at a table with a family of people, and I get this pressure on my head. And it feels like the skull is shrinking on the brains. And I don't want to get up and be rude or that, but eventually I have to. And people wonder what the hell's wrong with me. But when I started doing dementia course and that, I got understanding. I understood it. So we had an emergency family meeting and discussed how we addressed it. And what they do, I just say, tap me on the shoulder, I'm going, I'll be back in a couple of minutes. It's cool. There's no anxiety. They know what's happening. And even when they had my birthday party restaurant, they were kind enough to go to the restaurant and explain my situation. Do they have a table that I could be comfortable with? But to make things, so I had the plan to do that, tell the kids. I wanted to get a full understanding and knowledge of dementia as well as Parkinson. It can get quite complex, believe it or not. And so I started joining the respective associations. The Parkinson WA, the Alzheimer's WA, the Lewie Body Dementia Association, which is only located in America. As you see, I get email from them telling me what's going on. Also make it easier for me because I notice I can't remember if I take my medicine or not. So I got one of these things that's a 7-day with 4, the morning, the noon, the bed and that. Put my medicine in so I know if I took it or not. I would dread, particularly with one medicine I take, to overdose. I probably feel like I've been Woodstock or floating around. I don't know what would happen. But also, I do diary to write down what I'm going to do. If I go to a meeting, I write down action notes or whatever I need to know. I see my OT and she says you can do this and do that. I'll write that down. And that makes it a lot easier. But I don't stop relying on that. I still try to remember because I do everything, try to still stimulate my mind. And not get too reliant on these little easy things because I know it's going to get more challenging as I go on. Can you hear me when I go that way? Does that bother you I go that way? Keeps your neck loose? Keeps my legs loose? My mouth's always loose because it never shuts up. You know, and writing, believe it or not, I can't write. But thanks to Parkinson and Parky's assistance, I write worse. I go from an 18 to a 2 hieroglyphics language. So I do practice that. So that's one thing I work on. I do the puzzles like Sudoku, the ones where you got 3 letters, you got this big giant crossword thing, you got to find out all the words. So I got to write letters. I do Sudoku, numbers, anything, just to keep my training. I also attend things like Memory Cafe. Very growing, very good. People come and take their cares with them with dementia. And we have coffee. I met a lot of good friends, a lot of good stories, and a lot of support. We actually had 2 ladies come out off the shopping center. This is a Burgoon, sat with us by accident. They apologized. They didn't realize they were in a reserved seat. So we said, no, sit here. And they left with a new attitude toward us because she got to meet people with dementia. Because to me, that's the hardest thing, is getting both sides, the owners on both sides, to talk to each other. And the best example I can give to you, recently there was a case where a guy had all his staff be trained, go to a course on how to communicate with people who are handicapped, got dementia or whatever. After that was done, they went back to see how it worked. They turned, they laughed, they became friends, people are happy to go to work, and they understand both concerns. And this is the communication. And that's where I really appreciate seeing that, how it works. It can be done. And like one of the staff said, the buzzword was patience. And that it worked out. I'll go back to this later on. So I do have to consider, I do have a life. So I do things with families and friends, go long bows, table tennis, and have lunch with my friends. Just to get out of the house, have some decency, I go wacko. I'm already a little wacko. Facing society with what I got. I worked with a guy who was quadriplegic, 21-year-old medical student. We had a long talk about that. And we just had to accept some people are don't understand. And that's why they treat while we are. And that's why once they can understand us, the communication gets a lot better. Also, facing a dilemma. I was at hockey, I had to slide down the steps, I had a short time to get off. I was afraid because my balance was really challenging. I tapped this guy on the shoulder because I was afraid if I hop off the side, I'd jump on him. I went like this. He turns over. I explained to him I got Parkinson and I got to jump. I don't want to jump on you or fall. Don't worry, mate. He got his mate and helped me down. No problems. I also learned to know your limits. When I was at the sailboat in Fremantle, I climbed the mast. And I was quite teary and emotional. But it gave me a lot of confidence in my life. Another thing that I got when using was utensil. I went to a banquet and I was still cutting my steak while people were having their dessert, believe it or not. Also, and getting close to the conclusion, we have to address that the day will come with a will. With a will, what we're going to do, we're going to move out of our house, downsize, go to a nursing home, retirement village, things like that. But I want to conclude, and also GPS wants to do that. The barriers and bridges, the barriers of a lack of communication with other people who don't have the conditions we have, that is my opinion. And there's others, when we knock down the barriers and build bridges to improve that. We also want to define what we should do is allow Parky and dementia define us. It's we that should be defining Parkinson and dementia. Also, what I like to see is, as I go down near the end of my path, I see a road, the path I've been taking. The pothole is not as deep or big. Those tree trunks and large branches, it goes down to small branches and twigs so we can move on a little bit better, because through the help of all of us, organizations and individuals, and also when we get to the end, the fog lifts up and we can see each other and we can understand each other, be that transparency, and improve greatly the communication. And what I like to see is that if that happens, who knows? We might see a little flicker of light at the end of that tunnel because of our all work. Because all of us has conditions. Our main thing is the hope that there'll be a cure. And who knows? There might be one we have that light. And let's just keep our hope going in a positive way. Thank you very much.